Lesson 2, Business and Ethics by Group 3. Learning Objectives. After the lesson, you are expected to identify the different ethical concerns that exist in a workplace, analyze some ethical concerns in a business, and be able to provide different approaches to solve them, and reason out how ethics form the basis of good governance and social responsibility of the business. Introduction to Business Ethics. Public interest in business ethics is at an all-time high. Not all business ethics issues turn into major scandals, but the range of business issues from which ethical problems continue to reside are numerous. The following table presents a list of some of the top ethical issues that companies typically face. So, business ethics enhances the law by outlining acceptable behaviors beyond government control. And it also helped the companies to build long-lasting relationship and solid reputations and also a financial success.
Common examples of ethical issues that businesses face. Examples of ethical issue. Stakeholder group. Example of ethical issue. Customers. Product safety or healthfulness. Advertising or marketing honesty. Fair and accurate packaging. Fair pricing in relation to product quality. Consumer privacy. Employees. Fair compensation, compliance with employment laws, avoidance of employment discrimination, safe working place and condition, avoiding employee that embezzlement, employees' privacy, dealing with destructive employee. Community and environment. Environment protection and sustainability. Adherence to environmental and community laws. Good corporate citizenship. Philanthropy and supporting causes. Adapting to different cultures. Avoiding bravery. Shareholders. Protecting shareholders' interests. Fair compensation to executives. Quality board of directors. Protection of the company's asset. Fair returns on investment. Accurate communication. Transparency. Ethical issue is the circumstances in which a moral conflict arises in the workplace. Okay, moral conflict is a situation in which a person has two moral obligations, which cannot be met both at once. Behind this obligation lie conflicting values.
Business ethics, some basic concepts. Ethics are a standard of conduct which originate from some external group or source such as society in general or business in particular. So, ethics are a standard of conduct, conduct of standard or codes which you before you engage in business you should conduct to the society or in group before on how you manage in a business. Morals are frequently seen as standard of conduct that originate within the individual. Morality in this view is often viewed as one's personal compass regarding right or wrong. So morality means in business you have to do what is right or wrong in your business to reach the goal of your business. So the next one is descriptive and normative ethics. Descriptive ethics is concerned with describing, characterizing, and studying the morality of people, an organization, a culture, or a society. Normative ethics is concerned on reasoning or out justifying a coherent moral system of thinking and judgment. So descriptive ethics is meaning you have to describe or describing the people or in organization before you engage in business. So you have to study on how you manage the cost, on how you conduct the business to the society or thinking before you engage in business. The next one is normative ethics, seeks to uncover, develop, and justify basic moral principles that are intended to guide behavior, actions, and decisions. It seeks to propose principles which will identify ethical behaviors from unethic behavior. So you have a business, you have to kanang in your business you have to develop your product so that your customer will other customer will buy. So to on how you develop your products. Sorry. Okay. What I mean is you have to develop your product so that you have to develop your product through honest and fair, so that the customer so that your customer will use it, and that's all.
The conventional approach to business ethics. The conventional approach to business ethics is to compare a decision, practice, or policy that is being used in practice with prevailing norms of acceptability in society. There is a considerable predictability with this question. With regards to the source of norms that were used as basis for ethical judgments, there are many legitimate sources to consider, such as family, friends, religion, community, employer, law, the person's profession, and so on. Likewise, personal values, norms, and judgment can be considered as a guideline. So, for example, to respect the interests of the other company and customer and the competence. So, in many circumstances, the conventional approach to ethics may be useful and applicable. However, questions arise when norms from one source are in conflict with norms from another source. We get these messages from television, movies, books, music, politics, the internet, social media, and other sources in the culture, and they do not always convey high ethical standards. Popular TV shows have released episodes in which questionable ethics are depicted and sometimes celebrated. For example, Survivor, BBB, Violating.
3.1 Making ethical judgment. Making business decisions that have an ethical dimension to them is something faced by manager and employee. Three key elements compose such a decision there are: first, observe or participate in action or practice in the place working place. Second, compare the practice with prevailing norms of acceptability. Third, recognize that value judgments are being someone as to what really occurred, the actual behavior, and what the prevailing norms of acceptability actual are. This means that two different people could look at the same behavior or practice, compare it with their benefits of what the prevailing norms are, reach different conditions. Even if they accept the fact that there will be differences in perception and behavior of the person, we will still that the challenges task of determining the society's prevailing norms of acceptability of business practice. The difference between normative ethics that apply ethics. Normative ethics studies that creatures make an action right or wrong. Apply these ethics attempts to figure out in actual cases whether or the certain act have those features. Ethical theories are often broadly divided into three types: consequentialist theories, which are primarily concerned that when ethical consequences of particular action. Non-consequentialist theories which tend to broadly concern the extension of the person making ethical decision and particular.
In many business decisions, ethics, economics, and the law all come into play. When we focus on ethics and ethical decision making, it is useful to consider these primary elements that come into conflict while making ethical judgments. In ethical decision making, however, we tend to set aside philanthropic expectations and focus on ethical expectations, and especially those elements that primarily come into tension with ethics, economic, the quest of profits, and law. Society's codified ethics. In area 1 of the diagram, the action is profitable and ethical, but the law is not clear. In area 2 of the diagram, the action is legal and ethical but not profitable. In area 3 of the diagram, is profitable and legal. In area 4 of the diagram, fulfill all responsibility. Ethics, economics, and law. Ethical issue, it is connected to economical issue. Philanthropic means to aim a better nation. In our country, here in Philippines, we can aim a better nation using be supportive to our local products and handicrafts. Use your vote, your voice matters. And that's a simple way of aiming our nations. About the ethical responsibility, it ensures the protective of the environment and the society. And about the economical responsibility, it is the firm of backing and financial decision that is important that we have a guideline if we apply in a company or if we have a business someday.
Three model of management ethics: immoral management, moral management, and amoral management. Immoral management is defined as an approach that is devoid of ethical principles or precepts, at the same time implies a positive and active opposition to what is ethical. Immoral management decisions and behaviors are those that are opposite of ethical norms and principles. The following are the characteristics of an immoral management. They knowingly and intentionally do wrong. They are self-centered and self-absorbed. They actively oppose what is right, fair, and just. They show no concern for the stakeholders. The list, which reveals the common examples of immoral behaviors, includes stealing from petty cash fund, cheating on expense and liquidation reports, taking credit for another person's accomplishment, lying on time sheet about hours worked, coming into work hungover, telling a demeaning joke, taking office supplies for personal use, showing preferential treatment towards certain employees, taking credit for another person's accomplishment, rewarding employees who display wrong behaviors, and a fellow employee, example, verbally, sexually, and rationally. So, immoral management focus on exploiting opportunities for corporate or personal gain. For example, is the murder. Murder is an immoral act against humanity. So, as what is in the above, it was their characteristics that it is a self-centered and self-absorbed. It was their personal gain. So, murder, you know that it is wrong, but still you do it with your personal will. When it is willingly, you do it, but when you know that it is bad, but still you do it personally.
Moral management. Moral management conforms to the highest standards of ethical behavior or professional standards of conduct. When we say moral management conforms to the highest standards of ethical behavior or professional standards of conduct, means an approach that is void of ethical principles or precepts, and at the same time implies a positive and active opposition to what is ethical. Its decisions and behaviors are those that are not contradicting to ethical norms and principles. Moral management to immoral management is opposite, although um, it is not always crystal clear what level of ethical standards prevail, or moral management strives to be highly ethical in terms of its focus on elevated ethical norms and professional standards of conduct, motives, goals, and orientation towards the law, the general operating strategy. Closely related to the moral management is the subject of moral leadership. In his paper, Archie Carroll describes the characteristics of a highly moral leader. Coincidentally, these characteristics are also similar to what Stephen Covey characterized as qualities of an effective person in his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. The characteristics are as follows. They have the passion to do what is right. They are morally proactive. They are consider all the stakeholders. They have strong ethical character. They are obsessed with fairness. They undertake principled decision making. They integrate ethics wisdom with management wisdom. Another strategy that is linked with moral management is integrity strategy. Strategy is characterized by a conception of ethics as the driving force of an organization. Ethical values shape management's search for opportunities, the design of organizational systems, and the decision-making process. Ethical values in the integrity strategy provide a common frame of reference and serve to unify different functions, lines of business, and employee groups. Some common features of an integrity strategy include the following, which are consistent with the moral management model. So these are the positive ethical behavior, giving proper credit to where or whom it is due, always being straightforward and honest in dealing with other employees, treating all employees equally, being a responsible steward of company assets, resisting pressure to act unethically, recognizing and rewarding ethical behavior of others, talking about the importance of ethics and compliance on a regular basis. Another strategy is, these are the positive ethical behaviors. The list below provides the characteristics of the moral managers. They conform to high level of ethical or right behavior or moral rectitude. They conform to high level of personal and professional standards. Ethical leadership is commonplace. They search out where people may be hurt. Their goal is to achieve success, but within the limits of sound ethical precepts. High integrity is displayed in thinking, speaking, and doing. An example of moral management is the action of Navestar when it chooses to send its employees temporarily to various non-profit organizations and still pay them instead of choosing to lay off the said employees. As a result, those employees were moved positive and highly effective when they returned to their original jobs in the company.
Okay, amoral management. Amoral management is not just a middle position between immoral and moral management. Conceptually, it has been positioned between the other two, but is different in nature and kind of from both. Okay, this is the kind of management that when a leader consistently does not respond to ethical situation. Employees who work for amoral managers have less moral courage, which results in their engaging in higher levels of unethical behavior. Like for example, white lies. You lie for the sake of attaining good results without the intention of harming or taking advantage of the situation. Two kinds of immoral management: intentional immoral management and unintentional immoral management. Okay. Intentional immoral management, it is believing that business operates under its own set of rules rather than a standard time for moral and ethical behavior. Unintentional immoral management, casual or careless about ethical factors. Under that, unintentional immoral management is implicit forms of prejudice, biased favors of one's group, conflict of interest, tendency, or other claim criticism. There are unconscious biases. There are three structural aspects. It is ambiguity, attachment, and approval. Three aspects of human nature may amplify unconscious biases: familiarity, discontent, and escalation. Related strategy to a moral management. Compliance strategy. Characteristic of a moral manager. Intentional amoral manager and an unintentional amoral manager. Okay, intentional amoral management exclude ethical issues because they think that general ethical standards are not appropriate to business. An intentional amoral manager does not include ethical concerns because they are inattentive and insensitive to moral implication. Thank you. Making moral management actionable, the characteristic of amoral, moral, and amoral management discussed should provide some useful benchmark for managerial self-analysis. Because self-analysis and introspection significantly help managers to recognize the need to move from the immoral ethics to the moral ethics. The organization leader must acknowledge that immoral management is a morally vacuous condition that can be quite easily distinguished as just an innocent, practical, bottom line philosophy, something to take pride in. Amoral management is the bane of the management profession until it is recognized for what it really is and until managers take steps to overcome it. Most managers are not bad guys as they sometimes are portrayed. So, the immoral, moral, and immoral management, this character is very useful when it comes to managerial self-analysis. The organization leader need to know the main of the characteristic of the moral management actionable. So this is important in the organization leader and also the manager to know or to distinguish the attitude of their employees.
Development of moral judgment. As a manager, it is helpful to know something about how people, whether they are manager or employee, development moral or ethical. Rather ethical judgment. If we knew more about this process, we could better understand our own behavior of those around us and those we manage. Further, we might be able to better design reward system for encourage ethical behavior if we knew more about how employees and another thing and process issues about ethics. Moral judgment is the way an individual personally understand what is right or wrong, bad or good. Development moral judgment is a must for everyone regarding of your status, age, etc. Because it will help you to mindful of your action as well as of the will be mindful of your action as well as of the well-being of another people. As someone who is a higher ranked person to your working place, it is necessary to establish, practice, and develop moral judgment without yourself and to your workmate. It is great factor to maintain ethical stay, unity, freedom, and positive ambient in your area.
So, good day, ma'am. I'm the next reporter. I'm Raymond J.S. Orpelia. So, I'm going to discuss Kohler's levels of moral development. The psychologist Lawrence Kohlberg conducted extensive research into the topic of moral development. He concluded that there is a general sequences of three levels, each with two stages, through which individuals progress in learning to think or develop morally. The levels of development are divided into three levels, which are divided into two stages each. So, level 1, pre-conventional level. Stage 1, reaction to punishment. So, stage 1 is the reaction to punishment stage. If you want a child to do something at a very early age, scolding or disciplining often is needed. The child's orientation at this stage is toward the avoidance of pain. So, this stage, behavior is determined by consequences. The individual will obey in order to avoid punishment. Next, stage 2, seeking of rewards. So, stage 2, seeking of rewards stage, the child begins to see connection between doing good and getting some reward. The reward may be praise from parents or something tangible, such as ice cream, extra TV time, or getting to use mom or dad's computer or cell phone. So, conventional level is the second stage. During this stage, individuals begin to develop personal moral codes by internalizing the roles of adult role models. Next, level 2, conventional level. Stage 3, good boy or nice girl morality. So, stage 3 is called good boy, nice girl morality stage. In this stage, the person seeks rewards from others by living up to their expectation. So, this stage, behavior is determined by social approval that the individual wants to maintain or win the affection and approval of others by being a good person. There are some of example of this. Rewards are feelings of acceptance, trust, loyalty, or friendship. As a result, the individual begins to conform to what is generally expected of a good son, daughter, sister, brother, friend, and so on. Next, stage 4, law and order morality. Not only the person learns to respond to the norms of a specific group, but he or she now recognize that certain norms and practices are needed so that the society can function or perform in an orderly and logical manner. They learn what it means to be a good citizen. Therefore, many organizational members are strong influenced by society's conventions as manifested in both stages 3 and 4 as described. Most adults do reach level 2 of Kohlberg's level. So, in this, social roles and laws determine behavior. The individual now takes into consideration a larger perspective that of societal laws. Moral decision making becomes more than consideration of close ties to others. The individuals believe that rules and laws maintain social order rather that is worth preserving. Next is level 3, post-conventional, autonomous, or principled level. At the post-conventional level, the individual moves beyond the perspective of his or her own society. Morality is defined in terms of abstract principles and values that apply to all situations and societies that individual attempts to take the perspective of all individuals. So, stage 5, social contract orientation. Social contract orientation. At this stage, right action is taught in terms for general individuals' rights and standards that have been critically examined and agreed upon by society as a whole. Social contracts have influence. Individual rights determine behavior. So, the individual views laws and rules as flexible tools for improving human purposes that is given the right situation there are exceptions to rules when laws are not consistent with individual rights and the interest of the majority, they do not bring about good for people, and alternatives should be considered. So, the last stage, stage 6, universal ethical orientation. Here, the individual uses his or her thinking and conscience in according with self-chosen ethical principles that are anticipated to be universal, comprehensive, and consistent. These universal principles. These are universal principles. So, according to Kohlberg, this is the highest stage of function. However, he claimed that some individuals will never reach this level at this stage. The appropriate action is determined by oneself choosing ethical principle of conscience. These principles are abstract and universal in application. This type of reasoning involves taking the perspective of every person or group that could potentially be affected by that decision. There are some of example of this stage, the universal ethical principle. So, example, the golden rule might be focused on such ideals as justice, human rights, reciprocity, and social welfare. So, this stage not only see the actions that have been done by an individual, this stage also use the existing laws that are implemented in the society.
Good day everyone, especially to our instructor, Ma'am Therese Ruby, and I am the last reporter and I'm going to tackle ethics of care as alternative to Kohlberg. Carol Gilligan argued that Kohlberg's conclusion may accurately depict the stages of moral development among men, whom he used as his research subjects, but that his findings are not generalizable to women. According to Gilligan's view, men tend to deal with moral issues in terms that are impersonal, impartial, and abstract. This alternative view of ethics has been called the ethics of care. So, Carol Gilligan is a psychologist that is best known for her ideas on the moral development of women. She emphasized what she called an ethics of care in women's moral reasoning. She placed her approach in direct opposition to Lawrence Kohlberg's theory of moral development, which she claimed was biased against females. Carol Gilligan believed women's morality arises from real-life dilemmas. She came up with 3 stages of moral development that emphasize an ethics of care. So at the first level, the object of concern is the self. At second is establish connections and participate in social life. At third level, women recognize both their own needs and needs of others, specifically with those they form relationship with. However, it does support Gilligan's claim that a different perspective toward moral issue is sometimes used. So in the first level, women are focused on their self. In the second stage, women have come to focus on their responsibilities towards others. In the third level or stage is that woman has learned to see herself and others as interdependent. However, research by other scholars has shown that 2 moral orientations exist, one's towards care and one's towards justice, which is the Kohlberg's moral development. Example of ethical care is that when your classmate told you that she had just a messy breakup with her boyfriend. You don't know her very well, but you believe that showing you care is the best response, so you give her a hug.